Welcome back to Autism at Home. So this is the first lesson in our Building Flexibility series, and we will be talking about transitions. In other words, how to teach a child to change from one activity to another activity, or from one location to another. Transitions are a large and natural part of any child and adult's day. Children are constantly moving from room to room, home to school, lockers to classroom, cafeteria to playground. For adults, we go from home to work, to dropping by the grocery store, to attending events and joining our friends for meals. Transitions may seem so simple for many of us, but can be genuinely difficult for a child with autism. There are several reasons for this. The first and common one, which we address as a whole in this series, is flexibility. Individuals with autism may tend to like sameness, repetition, routine, and predictability. Having to switch from location to location or activity to activity can be a daunting experience and require them to work hard to change the fixed pattern they had in mind. Some other common reasons include individuals with autism finding it hard to understand verbal directions or sequencing the steps they need to take. For example, a child with autism may not necessarily understand or have the attention span to listen when a teacher calls out a complicated instruction over the class, like put your books in the yellow file, pack your bags, and go line up at the door. They may also not recognize the subtle cues around them that usually hint it's time to get a move on. Their classmate beside them closing their book and putting their pencils away, students getting up around them. Finally, another simple reason why transitions can be difficult for people with autism is simply because whatever they're doing now is more interesting and fun than what they have to do later. There are two main ways to address difficulties with transitions: preventative strategies and teaching strategies, which both fall under the umbrella of proactive strategies. Preventative strategies mean preventing a challenging behavior like a meltdown from happening due to a transition. These largely include the use of visuals. Communication is bidirectional, and many children with autism understand better when communicated to with visuals, compared to just telling them verbally what is coming next. Strategies that let them prepare themselves for an upcoming transition include using a visual schedule, be it physical or digital, to tell them what's happening next. First then boards, which are basically simpler versions of schedules telling them what activity is coming first and next. A timer, which tells them how much time is left till they need to transition. And finish boxes, which serve as a visual cue that it's time to pack up. We have talked about at length what these strategies are, the many types of them, and how to use them in our entire 4th Starter Kit unit on teaching cooperation. So we won't be going into detail on this today, but we'll put a link to the unit in the description or article below. Today, we will focus on the teaching strategy for transitions, which involves breaking the skill of a transition down, intentionally practicing it, and of course, reinforcing your child for being flexible with the change. When breaking transitions down, start with a list of the typical transitions your child needs to do in a day and rank them from easiest to hardest for them. As I mentioned before, sometimes it's difficult for a child with autism to transition to something else, simply because that something else is less reinforcing than what they're doing now, like going from TV time to bath time. Hence, we want to start with transitions that are easy for them, usually going from something they don't like to something they already like. Then we work our way up to going from the preferred activities to the unpreferred activities. Here is an example of how this could look like for a child learning to transition within the home. Once you have definitively ranked all the transitions at home, split them into 3 categories: unpreferred to preferred, preferred to preferred, and preferred to unpreferred. At the start, you may have to change up routines in the home by strategically placing unpreferred activities before and not after the preferred activity wherever you can. The main material you will need is a visual schedule. Visual schedules can have many icons on it to show what's happening for the whole day. But as a start, you could keep it to just 2 icons at a time: the current activity and the next activity. The end goal is you are able to use a regular visual schedule with all the activities for the day, and your child can transition from one to the other, whether he likes them or not. Now, using a visual schedule may sound a lot like a preventative strategy, not a teaching one, where you need to make the effort to show them a picture in order to prevent a challenging behavior. After all, ideally, you want to just be able to tell your child, "We're going to drop by the supermarket on the way home," and not to have to show them a visual on your phone or pull out a schedule from your bag. But we must remember to be fair and reasonable in how we communicate with a child with autism. We might not give verbal directions to a person who can't hear, or show a map to a person who can't see. Similarly, we would communicate to a child with autism in a way they best understand. In most cases, a visual is the best way to communicate, while children with more advanced speech would likely suffice with verbal instructions. You can download some daily schedule visuals in our corresponding article to get you started. So here is how we teach the concept of transitions. Of course, your child already needs to be doing the first activity before you can cue them when it is time for the second. The more times in a day you are able to set this up, the more practice you get in. Show them the visual schedule and use simple language such as, "Table time is done, it's playtime. Come to playtime, then reward." When your child is able to follow your instruction and transition to the next activity or place, reward them immediately with something they enjoy. Whenever you can, try to tell your child about the upcoming transition at least a few minutes in advance. All of us appreciate a heads up rather than being expected to drop everything and go immediately. Now let's see that in action.
Okay, it's table time and then it's gonna be playtime. 5 more minutes, okay? Okay, table time is almost done and then it's playtime. 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. There you go, table time is all done. It's our playtime. Come to playtime, then get snow spray. Come on. Hey, good, coming to playtime, you get snow spray. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
In that example, the adult was specific in telling the child what they were getting for a reward, so they had something to look forward to. As with almost every lesson on Autism at Home, there's theory and then there's practice. You may not find your child to be as cooperative and flexible from the get-go. What if your child still refuses to transition, even when you followed these steps perfectly?
Pop quiz. Here are some questions to get you thinking about some key ingredients that always need to be there when teaching any skill, including transitions. Question 1. A child refuses to transition despite being shown the schedule and being told what reinforcer they can get. Which area of ABA below may need to be strengthened? You guessed it, all of the above. First, check the transition you're asking the child to do is not too difficult. Ensure the reinforcer is really something they would want and they're getting enough opportunities to practice the skill so it gets easier and easier. To break skills down, don't forget to also consider if your child may need more time and predictability than just 5 minutes or 10 seconds. Perhaps they need as much as 15 minutes or more notice. This is where a timer or verbal countdown comes in handy. You could start with telling them about the transition much earlier and using a timer or countdown so they can prepare. So, your items list could look something like this. Or sometimes your child just needs a bit more time to finish up the activity naturally, like the last puzzle piece or last block building before clearing up. Try not to be too strict about ending activities on the dot.
So now it's your turn. Make a list of all the transitions your child would do in daily life, from easiest to hardest. This can be transitions between activities, transitions between locations, in and outside the house, or both. Using the steps from this lesson, start practicing these transitions as often as you can, beginning with the easiest ones. We hope this lesson on transitions was simple enough and helpful. This is just the first in our flexibility series. Stay tuned for the next lesson when we teach another key life skill on flexibility: waiting. Waiting in line, waiting for the train, waiting for a meal. Life is full of waiting, and every child, autism or not, would need to learn it. If you haven't already, do check out our free online resource platform, Autism at Home, which has all the corresponding articles and necessary downloadables for you. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay updated. We look forward to seeing you soon.